What happens when Australia's most adored young conservationist walks into what he assumes is a warm, friendly morning talk show, only to get blindsided by a host with a personal score to settle? You're about to see one of the most explosive, uncomfortable, and downright shocking live TV meltdowns in recent memory. And trust me, nothing prepares you for how far this spirals. But before we jump into this chaotic collision, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments, should hosts be allowed to interview guests without doing any research at all? Because what you're about to witness is the perfect example of why preparation actually matters. Robert Irwin, son of the legendary Steve Irwin, showed up on The View, excited to talk about his new wildlife docuseries and ongoing conservation missions. The 20-year-old had been on multiple shows earlier that week, charming audiences with his sincerity, enthusiasm, and commitment to continuing his father's legacy. Every interview went smooth. Hosts were kind. Questions were thoughtful, and Robert's authentic passion won everyone over. But Joy Behar, she had a very different agenda. The moment Robert stepped onto the stage, the vibe shifted. The typical warm welcome was replaced with a stiff performative smile from Joy. The rest of the panel seemed unusually quiet, like they sensed what was coming but couldn't stop it. Robert, ever polite, greeted them in the audience cheerfully, completely unaware that he was walking straight into a storm. "Welcome back to The View," Joy said, her tone sharp enough to slice glass. "We are joined today by Robert Irwin, wildlife conservationist and son of the late Steve Irwin." Then she leaned forward. "Robert, I've been wanting to ask you something that's been bothering me." Robert shifted slightly, staying composed. "Of course, Joy, ask away." Joy didn't hesitate. "I've watched your interviews and documentaries," she said, eyes narrowing. "And I have to wonder, aren't you just coasting on your father's legacy? What have you actually done that stands on its own?" The studio froze. The audience felt the mood change instantly. Robert's smile weakened only for a second, but he recovered with the professionalism of someone who had heard variations of this before. "Well, Joy, I understand why people might think that," Robert said evenly, "but I've been involved in conservation since I was little. I've helped rescue thousands of animals, worked on endangered species programs, and dedicated my life to continuing my family's mission." Joy didn't budge. "That's my point," she said sharply. "You're continuing his work. Where's your own path? It looks like you're just copying Steve Irwin, playing dress-up in khakis, and pretending to be him. When are you going to find an identity outside your father?" The panel visibly tensed. Whoopi looked ready to intervene, but Joy was fully locked in. Robert inhaled slowly, clearly trying to remain calm. Joy with respect. "Conservation isn't about ego or fame," Robert answered. "It's about the mission. Whether I'm building on my father's work or start my own initiatives, the goal is to protect wildlife." "Oh, please," Joy scoffed. She actually rolled her eyes. "That's such a convenient excuse. You know what I think? You're scared to step out of your father's shadow because you know you might not measure up. You're 20 years old. Maybe it's time to grow up instead of running around with animals." That did it. Something in Robert's expression shifted completely. Gone was the polite media smile. What replaced it was raw, controlled intensity. "Playing with animals," Robert repeated, accent thickening. "Joy, do you actually know what my work involves?" His tone made everyone freeze. "Last month, I helped rescue a koala and her Joey from a bushfire." He said, "The breeding program I work with brought echidnas back to areas where they vanished for decades." Joy tried to interrupt, but Robert wasn't done. "You want to talk about growing up? I grew up watching my dad relocate venomous snakes away from homes. I grew up helping run a wildlife hospital that's treated over 100,000 injured animals. This isn't a hobby, it's responsibility." The studio was silent, airtight, but Joy misread his passion and pushed harder. "Look, I get you're emotional," she said condescendingly, "but facts matter. You're famous because your dad was famous. Without the Irwin name, you'd be another kid playing zookeeper. Maybe it's time to accept that and find a real job." Robert froze completely still. Everyone recognized that posture break. The moment right before someone either walks away or explodes. "A real job," Robert said softly. Too softly. Joy, do you know what my father was doing when he died? Joy's eyes widened, not expecting this turn. He was filming a documentary on stingrays. Robert continued, voice gaining power. Not for clout, not for a paycheck. He did it because he wanted people to understand misunderstood animals. Joy swallowed hard. He died doing what he loved, trying to educate and protect creatures that can't speak for themselves. Robert's voice cut like a blade. You want to talk about real careers? My dad could have made millions turning Australia Zoo into a theme park. He could have done cheap shows for easy money. Instead, he chose education and conservation, and I'm proud to continue that. Joy now looked rattled. Truly, Robert leaned forward. And every day I work to honor that legacy. Not because I'm writing coattails, but because the work matters. Species are disappearing while we sit here arguing. Animals are dying while you make jokes about caddies. Whoopi tried stepping in to calm things, but Robert wasn't finished. Let's talk about your comments, Joy. He said, you didn't ask questions. You attack my character, my work, my father's memory. You mock conservation. Tell me, would you say the same to David Attenborough? Jane Goodall. Joy opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Robert wasn't letting up. And here's what really gets me. He said, you're criticizing someone saving animals while you sit on television giving opinions. You want to talk about impact? How many species have you helped preserve? The studio gasped. Joy stiffened, clearly flustered. She tried one last jab. Maybe you just needed someone to tell you the truth. Not everyone thinks you're special because of your name. That was the breaking point. Robert stood up fast. Special because of my name? He repeated, voice chillingly calm. Do you have any idea what that name means? He stood tall, intense, unshakable. That name means waking up at dawn to care for animals. It means learning to read crocodile behavior as a child. It means carrying a world-changing legacy on your shoulders. Joy tried desperately. Robert, sit down. I'm not sitting down. He snapped. You ambushed me. You belittled my work and insulted my father, and now you want me to show you respect. Security shifted nervously off camera. You want respect? Do research. Ask better questions. Understand the difference between entertainment and meaningful work. Robert grabbed his mic back. From previously, I came here to talk about endangered species and conservation. Instead, you turned this into a personal attack for ratings. Thank you for reminding me exactly why I do this work, why my father did this work, why conservation matters more than anything happening at this table. He removed his microphone and set it down. If you care about wildlife, he said directly into the camera, look up the work we're doing at Australia Zoo. Because unlike some people, we're actually trying to make the world better. And with that, Robert Irwin walked off the set. Joy Behar was left speechless. The host frozen, the audience stunned. Millions watching couldn't believe what they just witnessed. The camera stayed on Joy long enough to show the shock sinking in before the show abruptly cut to commercial. Robert Irwin didn't just defend himself. He defended conservation. He defended his father. He defended every creature that can't speak for itself. So, tell me, was he justified? Did Joy cross the line? Drop your thoughts below and make sure you subscribe for more unbelievable TV moments like